This episode is brought to you by iZotope. Our friends over at iZotope create the most thoughtfully and intuitively designed software for audio repair, mixing, and mastering. I use their tools every day for the podcast, and I love it. And I think you will too. Go over to iZotope.com and check it out. That's iZotope.com. iZotope. Use the code FRET10 at checkout for a 10% discount. That's all caps, FRET, and the number 10. The second single from Future Prophet Records is here. Birthday Girl presents Never the Sound, available right now on Future Prophet Records. That's Future, PROPHET, records.com. Order now. This time period, you're looking intense, my friend. And, any picture or video footage of you from the time, you're not smiling. You're kind of staying in the shadows, and you have something of a grimace on your face. In your autobiography, in Wild Tales, what you write is, it was a good collection of songs, but dark and moody.
It was definitely not the Graham Nash that I expected. But I wasn't there. I was depressed. I was closed. I was not talking to people. It was just a depressing part of my life. But at least I had the guts to put it out.
Welcome to Discograffiti, the deep dive podcast for music obsessives that gives freaks like you and me the chance to connect with a brotherhood obsessed with rating the entire discography of every single artist and band that ever mattered. I'm your host, Dave Gebroe, and with 3 new episodes each week, you're going to gain a comprehensive knowledge of an act's history and output in the time it takes to listen to one album. Each new guest swings a hard left into an area you either had no idea you needed to know about or know all about and can't believe you're not alone out there. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on Crosby and Nash's debut album as a duo, Graham Nash David Crosby. Psst, along with our special guest, Graham Nash. In this episode, Graham Nash comes clean about Crosby and Nash's debut album as a duo, Graham Nash David Crosby. Plus, CSNY's first attempt at recording their great lost LP, Human Highway. Discograffiti's Wild Tales, the Graham Nash Interview Series, tackles every last release the great Graham Nash ever had a hand in creating, including CSNY, C&amp, and his solo career, detailing a history almost too wild to be believed. Here are just a few of the many things that Graham discusses with Discograffiti in this podcast. The infuriating experience with Crosby that inspired David Geffen to not only fire CSNY, but to dissolve his entire music management business. The final recorded studio appearance of Jerry Garcia's pedal steel guitar. The start of the recorded CSNY infighting song swipes. The final appearance of Perro on Graham's records, with the Dead acting as C&am's backing band. The story behind the writing of Graham's hit single, Immigration Man. The only single Graham ever partnered up with Neil Young to do as a duo. And an in-depth deep dive on every song off Graham Nash David Crosby. For over 4 years now, Discograffiti's Friday episodes have been completely free, and it's been my pleasure. But for a variety of reasons, Discograffiti's now moved to the subscription-based Patreon as our primary platform. Moving forward, our public stream will feature a teaser of the Friday episode and a Tuesday teaser of the bonus episode, and that's all. But here's the good news. Only $5 a month will get you the weekly Friday podcast to which you become accustomed. That's it. It's a no-brainer at just $1 an episode. And just that little bit will be what's required to help the show survive. To sweeten the pot, you'll also get regular installments of the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast. That's Rudy Fishman's podcast within a podcast featuring our Patreon members as guests. You'll also get access to over 100 back episodes of that show. The $10 Lieutenant tier gets you all that, plus access to half of the Patreon archive. That's hundreds of additional episodes, plus copies of my personal show notes, which include invaluable research, star ratings, and reviews. But the $20 major tier is the place to be, unless you can support the show on even higher tiers, which, if you can afford it, offers substantial perks, including advertising on the show and selecting the guests and artists I cover. With the major tier and above, you get it all. The Monday bonus episodes, aka the best stuff, the Friday show, the Soldiers of Sound podcast, plus access to the entire archive. That's many hundreds of Patreon episodes, an absolutely endless barrage of music entertainment, including 50 episodes of The Private Press with Paul Major, Rock Cousteau, Queasy Listening, and so much more. This tier will also be the only way to access the entire upcoming Spirit series, the entire Love series, the entire Lenny Waronker series, and the entire Jefferson Airplane series. Frankly, it'll keep you busy for the rest of your life. So support the podcast that's been supporting you for years. Discograffiti's calling, and it needs you. So don't risk feeling guilty by not giving. But enough of me yapping. Go on, subscribe now. Visit patreon.com/discograffiti and find the tier that's right for you. And away we go then. I thought about you today because as soon as I saw the snowflakes come down, I thought he's taking a walk today. Did you go out for one?
I did, yes.
What a beautiful day today.
Yeah.
It was unreal. I hope to see a video at some point that you've taken.
Actually, my wife Amy is in Japan right now.
Oh, okay. How was your tour? Was it okay?
Yeah, very successful.
Good. It's good to hear. All right. So where we last left off was October 10th, 1971, which was another stony evening. And the next thing to cover is at the end of October. It was actually Yom Kippur. David tried to use David Geffen as a sort of marijuana drug mule. And David Geffen got arrested. And somehow, against all odds, Geffen still got to New York and went to your hotel before the concert. And when he arrived at your room, Crosby, of course, demanded the dope. Geffen relayed the story, and Cros flew into an apoplectic rage. And this actually turned out to be a huge turning point in Geffen's life. He fired CSNY as a client, but in fact, he actually let all his rock and roll clients go and completely dissolved his management business. So if he wound up staying where he was, he may never have climbed the ladder that he did. Have you ever taken credit to David's face for his left turn in the industry?
No, not at all.
I mean, that was a huge turning point, at least the way that he talks about it.
Right.
You know, watching Crosby fly off the handle that night, what were your thoughts as you were watching this happen?
I'm not sure. I remember the incident. I don't remember what happened that night, though.
Well, that very same night, it was at Carnegie Hall, and Stephen actually walked on stage about an hour into the show, and I think it was your first time seeing him in over a year.
Yeah, I remember Stephen coming to visit David and I at Carnegie Hall, right.
So was that orchestrated? When he walked out, was that a pre-planned thing?
No.
And then the next night in Boston, the same thing happened again, except this time Neil joined you too, from what I understand, also unrehearsed.
Correct, yes.
So that idea of making up in that way in front of tons and tons of people, it has always struck me as so fucking funny. Was there an appeal in that for you personally, or was that just the way it wound up happening?
It's just the way it was with the four of us, you know. We would turn up at other people's shows. I remember Neil turning up at a gig that David and I were doing in Santa Cruz lots of times. You know, it's just the way we were. We didn't think anything weird at all.
But was it almost like, you know, it really wasn't water under the bridge unless people were actually watching it happen?
Maybe.
Was there an element to that maybe where like everything had to play out in a public forum?
No, there were no plans at all like that. It just happened the way it did.
And still, the four of you didn't actually reunite in 1972. Stephen was in Europe kicking ass with Manassas, and Neil was shooting Journey Through the Past and promoting Harvest, which was the top-selling album of that year. But what did wind up happening, which is, to me, a very big deal, is the Crosby and Nash studio albums begin. More understated than the trio albums, under less commercial pressure than the quartet albums, the four studio Crosby-Nash albums now begin to see release out in the world. And on April 5th, 1972, Graham Nash David Crosby is released. It's your first album, comes out on Atlantic. It peaks at number 4 on Billboard. And Immigration Man, which you wrote, peaked at number 36 on Billboard. It went gold, and it was dedicated to Miss Mitchell.
Yeah, it was.
In looking back on this record, what is it that differentiates the type of music that you made with David alone versus the band? How would you describe how you would approach the music, or was it the same?
It was pretty much the same, although, David and I had a very interesting vocal harmony, and we liked each other a great deal, and we had written songs. Like, for instance, I'd written a song called Southbound Train. Crosby and I were in this hotel in New York City. We were doing Carnegie Hall that night, and in the middle of rehearsing Southbound Train, there was a knock at the door, and David smilingly got up and opened the door, and it was Bob Dylan. And Bob was sitting there, and he said, "So what are you guys doing?" And we said, "Well, we're just rehearsing this song that we're going to do tonight at Carnegie Hall." And he said, "So play it." So we played Southbound Train, and he looked at me and he said, "You know what? Play it again." And so we did. And I must assume that Bob liked the song. I mean, he wouldn't want to hear it twice if he didn't like it.
It's an amazing song. I was actually hoping that was the one you were going to pick out, because when this record opens, I want to talk about it in a general sense, but this record and your career just with David, the way that it opens, the harmonies on Southbound Train, especially the final verse, it reminds me of just like a vocal rainbow. It's so comfortable. It's like being weighed down by a heavy, comfortable blanket. It's such a good feeling to hear those harmonies.
That's good to hear, because I was very comfortable with David, and he was with me too. I mean, we would take the piss out of each other on stage, of course, and it was all in good fun, and it just showed the audience just how much fun we were having making the music.
I don't know, how many more tracks of harmony that you used in that final verse, but it's like the voices are coming out of the woodwork, surrounding you from every angle. Do you remember how many more tracks of voices you did wind up using?
Just 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
So almost half of this record, appropriately enough, was actually written on the Mayan during your 3,000-mile trek from Fort Lauderdale to San Diego in early 70 after Deja Vu. You wrote Southbound Train and Frozen Smiles, and David wrote Where Will I Be and Whole Cloth on that journey.
And don't forget, that journey also started Wind on the Water, too.
Yeah, you wound up taking from that batch of music for quite some time.
Yeah.
Sessions for this album featured backing from Dave Mason, members of the Dead. It was a little bit of the Perot community coming out to play, but also something even more important, arguably, started for you that became extremely important to the two of you as a duo. Most of the musical support came from the section. Can you talk with me about what that was like to finally come home to these guys? All right, that about does it. To hear the full episode, just visit patreon.com/discograffiti and either subscribe as a private or higher, or just purchase it as a one-off. If you are a fan of the show, please do one of those two to help ensure Discograffiti's continued existence. Stay tuned, because next week brings upon us an exclusive interview with the great Jimmy Webb. Okay, here's the week up ahead. This Sunday, our weekly show within a show, the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast, drops for our Patreon's private tier. These are real people with talent and a burning fire deep inside, just like you and I. Then, come Tuesday, the major tier gets a very special treat. Tuesday's bonus episode is Part 8, the penultimate episode of our Spirit series, covering arguably the last blast of true creative inspiration that exploded out of Randy, California. There will be a very short sneak peek running publicly for free on Tuesday morning, but the entirety of the show will only be accessible on the major tier of our Patreon. A heartfelt Discograffiti thanks goes out to my beautiful wife and son, Jen and Mason, Graham Nash, Rudy Fishman, Becky Boyd, my mom, my dad, my incredibly loyal fans, and especially the entire Patreon community, the Soldiers of Sound. I love every last one of you, and this show would not exist without you, my friends. Speaking of friends, it's high time for some new ones. They're in our Facebook group, Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound. That's the best way to find out what's coming up on the show, but there's a hell of a lot more. You get recaps of the day in music history, the ability to pitch questions to guests, polls that put you in the driver's seat on guest and band decisions, and access to a thriving creative hub if you're looking for a collaborator. So make sure you don't miss out. You can find the link to the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound Facebook page right there in the show notes. And if you don't mess with the Zuck, no sweat. Just email me at info@discograffiti.com and I'll keep you in the loop. So now that it's done and you want more, another way to dive even deeper into the classic rock and roll from the 1960s is to go to the Beach Boys Season 1, Catch a Wave, 1961 to 1964, from episode 189 on, the Righteous Brothers Bill Medley interview, that's 181 and 182, my interview with the Free Design, that's 160 to 162, my epic interview with the Mamas and Papas Michelle Phillips, that's 141 to 159, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, that's 137, my 12-hour interview with Terry Kirkman and Jules Alexander from the Association, that's 109 to 113, Vashti Bunyan reading her entire output, that's 103 to 104. Sergio Diaz from Os Mutantes, that's 86 and 87. Bert Summer, that's 83 and 84. Sweetwater is episode 79. A tribute to David Crosby, 77 and 78. Andrew Tuttle rates the Monks, 74. Jim Florentine on Black Sabbath is 64 to 68. Lou Barlow on the Zombies is 59 and 60. Marvin Gaye biographer David Ritz rates Marvin Gaye, that's 45 to 47. Blind Faith is 43. Anthony Fantano rates the Velvet Underground, it's 32 and 33. Bob Forrest rates the band is 25 and 27. Monkees manager Andrew Sandoval rates the Monkees, that's 22 and 23. Don Randy rates David Axelrod as 17. Badfinger is 16. The Bee Gees is 10 and 11. Sly and the Family Stone is 5, 6, and 7. And Pink Floyd is 1 and 2. And of course, be sure to mark your calendars, because next Friday, March 6th, we're coming at you with our exclusive interview with the legendary Jimmy Webb. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. And so, from now till then, don't let our youth go to waste, lads and ladies. It's Discograffiti!